Today we'll be looking at descriptive statistics, rank order of scores, the range of scores, mean, mode, median, and population standard deviation of a set of scores will be the topics or subtopics that we'll be dealing with. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share. And so this is a question. The following scores were obtained by 30 students on a certain test. And so we have these scores, and as you can see, they are not arranged in order. And as you would have learned, that the scores should be arranged in order to calculate those items that we spoke about. In terms of rank order of scores, it's important that items are arranged in some type of order. When dealing with rank order of scores, it's important that they're actually in descending order from the highest to the lowest. So that is our goal. Now the highest number that we're looking at here, the highest score, we'll have to check it out first. And as we look through, we can see that we have 95 as our highest score. And looking through as well, we can also tell that 50 is our lowest score. And so if we were writing this down, we'll have 95 being the first value or the first score. What will be the next score? We only have one more value in the 90s, that's 93. So we'll have 93 being our second score. And then next we'll have numbers in the 80s, the highest of which is 87. As we can see, we have several numbers, several scores of 87. So we have 1, 2, 3 so far. And then we have another one here. What's next? We have 85 afterwards. We don't have any 86. What about 84? 83? 82? I can see that we have 2 of them, and so forth. Now, how do we go about getting the rank order of the scores? Well, first thing we want to do is put them put the positions down. The positions are not necessarily the rank order of the scores, but we must have them in some type of order. So this, in terms of order, we have first, second, well, in terms of position, we have first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Now these are not necessarily the rank order as mentioned, but we want to note the position as in terms of how we wrote them down. So basically, let's say we'd have completed the previous step. This is what we have. Alright? And completing the positions, we have 1 to 30. Alright, so now it's time for us to determine the rank order of the scores. Now, the rank order of scores will be equal to the sum of positions divided by the number of positions. And that's when we have a score repeated. But in this case, 95 is not repeated, so its rank order will be what? 1. That's correct. What about 93? Is it repeated? No, so it will be 2. What about 87? 87 is repeated, so the rank order of 87 cannot be 3, 4, 5, etc. Would not be the same as the position. So what would we do? According to the rule here, we will find the sum of the positions divided by the number of positions. So we're going to add 4, 5, 6, well, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because these are the positions for 87. Then we're going to divide by 4. That will give us 1804, which is equal to 4.5. Again, we add the positions of the number that's repeating. So we'll have 3, 4, 5, and 6. And when we divide by the amount, or the number of positions, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, we get 4.5. So that will give us the rank order for the repeating number. And of course, we write it all the recurring numbers. Now 85 is not repeated, so its rank order would be the same as its position, which is 7. And that's just the rule, or the idea behind it. 82, is it repeated? Yes, it's repeated. So what is its rank order? Well, we look at its what? Position, and find the sum of its position. 8 plus 9 will give us what? 8 plus 9 will give us 17 divided by 2 will give us 8.5. And we'll go for both of them because it's 82. Sum of the position divided by number of position, and that will be basically the midpoint between 8 and 9, which is 8.5. 8 is repeating as twice, so it will be the midpoint again. And so that will be its position, by the way, 10 plus 11. So again, since 80 is repeating, we take the sum of its positions, right? So 10 plus 11, that will be 21, divided by 2 will be 10.5, which is the midpoint between 10 and 11. Now what I've done up to the score 73, and if you look at it, you can actually go through it and check through based on the principle we have discussed. What about 17? It is repeating 3 times. What would be the rank order? We would add the positions, which would be 19, 20, and 21, and divide by 3. So the average of the position, in other words, 19 plus 20 plus 21 is actually 60, divided by 3 is 20, and so that would be 20. The rank order of 70 would be 20. Okay, for 68, it's not repeating, so it will be what? The same as its position, 22. 67, repeating twice, so we add them and divide by 2, which will be the midpoint, since it's two values. 23.4. I want to say it's the 3 values. I'm talking about position because the numbers are right after each other. So, well, 24 is right after 23. So when we find the midpoint, we'll get 23.5. And this 67 is also 23.5. So the rank order that we find for a repeated number is the same for all those repeated numbers. 65 repeated twice, so it'll be 25.6. 63 not repeating, so it'll be 27. 60 not repeating, so it'll be 28. 58 not repeating, 29, and 50 not repeating, so it'll be 30. And so as you can see, that is not too hard. So now we're looking at the range. What is the range? Well, the range is the highest score minus the lowest score. And so we probably look through this and see that it's 95 and it's 50, being the highest and lowest scores respectively. When we find the difference between them, what do we get? We get 45. So it's basically 95 minus 50, which gives us 45. And that is the range. And this would have made it a lot easier because we can see once they're in order, we can just look at the first and the last score and find the difference. Now we're looking at the mode. What is the mode? Well, it's kind of easy to remember the mode because mode sounds a lot like most, right? So mode most, the most frequently occurring score or value. In this case, we're dealing with scores, so it's the most frequent occurring scores. And so the mode is what? When you're in order, it's very easy to see. And as we have gone through the numbers before, we can definitely see that 87 would have repeated more than the other scores. So 87 is repeated 4 times. The others have only repeated like twice the most, I think. So 82 repeated twice, 80 repeated twice, 78 repeated twice. Oh, we have 70 repeating 3 times, but it's still not as much or as many times as 87. And so therefore 70 will not be a mode. What if we had another 70? What then would be the mode? Can we have more than 1 modes? Yes, correct, we can have more than 1 modes. If 70 was repeated 4 times as 87, then we'd have 2 modes, being 87 and 70, but that's not the case in this example. Alright, so hope you're still staying there, not logging off, not coming out of this video. Make sure you're still watching and enjoying the video. You're learning, don't give up. So calculate the median. Calculate the median. How do we calculate the median? Well, the median falls between what? Right. The median falls between the highest and the lowest score. So let's put that in. So as we can see, the median falls between the highest and the lowest scores, right? The lowest scores. And let me just replace this quickly. Yes, so the median falls between the highest and lowest scores. The score, I should actually have here the highest score. The highest score is what? What's the highest score? You guys would have seen that the highest score is 95, and the lowest score, so what should go here is actually the lowest score is what? The lowest score is, and the lowest score is 50. Alright, so what exactly is the median then? Since we have the highest and lowest score, and the highest score is 95, lowest score is 50, what then is the median? We said fall between, so that should be easy for us to figure out. How many scores do we have? Alright, before I do that, let me just give you an example. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the highest score, well, is 5, the lowest score is 1, and the median fall in between, which will be 3. Because we have two numbers to the left, two numbers to the right, middle number is 3. So when we think about median, we can think about middle. It's kind of easy to remember, isn't it? So, but what if we had, what's if a case where we have an even amount of numbers? Because as you can see, we have an odd amount of numbers. What if we had another number? Let's say we had 6 here. What would be the median? Well, in this case, as you can see, 3 and 4 fall in the middle, because we have two numbers to the left and two numbers to the right. So we have two numbers here, two numbers here to the right, and these two fall in the middle. So which will be the median? Or can both be the median? In fact, neither. What we'd have to do is to find the average of these two middle numbers. In other words, we put 3 plus 4 divided by 2, since here are two numbers, and we can only have two numbers in the middle, by the way, and that will give us 7 divided by 2, which is actually 3.5, and that will be the median when we have an even amount of numbers. Alright, so let's go back to the example, or question that we're working with. What is the median? Do we have an odd amount of numbers and an even amount of numbers? Remember how many numbers we're dealing with, how many scores we're working with? 30. And 30 is definitely an even number. We have 30 scores. So in half we'll have 15 numbers. Remember we have 10 here, 20, 30. So it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 15 numbers from 95 to 75 here. And then we have 15 numbers going from 75 to 50 here. So these two numbers will be the middle numbers. To finding the average of a score that is the same, two scores that are the same will just give us back the same score. So 75 plus 75 divided by 2. We didn't have to do that, we can just put 75, but let's just check it out. And that will be 150 divided by 2, which will be 75. So the median in this case is 75. Pretty easy. Alright, so now we're looking at the mean. How do we calculate the mean? I'm sure you've come across that before, and it's simply adding a sum of values. Let me repeat that. Adding a set of values, in other words, finding the sum of a set of values, and dividing by the number or the amount of values that we have. So to find the mean of these values, what are we going to do? We're going to add them up and then divide by 30 because we have 30 values. Alright, so that's all there is to it. Add these up and divide by 30. Now you can just quickly, you can pause the video and quickly do that. But let me show you what I did for that. So again, the formula is here. So we add all these values. So we have 95 plus 93. It's easy to add once they're in order. 95 plus 93. 87, since we have 4 of them, we can just quickly press 87 times 4 in our calculators rather than adding 87 repeatedly, like 87 plus 87 plus 87 plus 87. We can just say 87 times 4. That should be the same answer. 82 times 2, same as 82 plus 82. 80 times 2, same as 80 plus 80. Whichever you think is faster for you. And then once we add up all of those, we're going to divide by 30. And that is the mean. And of course, there's a way of writing that, so we can actually see the sum of the scores, right? So we can find the mean. Another way of writing it is this. Mu is equal to the sum of the scores divided by n. So the sum of the scores. In other words, the sum of each value in the data set, as x represents the values in the data set, each value in the data set, divided by the number of values in the data set. And then that will be, alright, what the answer is to this. So let's put that in our calculator and see what we get. So we got 2248, that's 2240 divided by 30. And what that gives us. And that gives us 74.933 recurring. If you want to put that to, let's put that to three significant figures, or three significant figures, and that would be 74.9. So we just write from here up to this point, 74.9. Alright, now if we're going to use this back again, as we will really use this back again, we wouldn't want to stop here. We'll want to put, for here we can stop here, but when we're writing the value for the standard deviation, it's important that we don't write 74.9, because that will affect our final result for the standard deviation. So we want to write at least up to 4 decimal places or so. Let's go through, calculate the standard deviation. The formula for that is, well, we have this lowercase sigma symbol. Some person prefer to just write SD, and this is the formula. So we find the square of the scores, and then we find the summation of the square of the scores. So we square these, get those values, and find the sum of them, those new values. Or in other words, after these values are squared, we find the sum of those values. Then we're going to subtract the sum of these values. We found that earlier, right? When we find the mean, which is the sum of these values. This little part I'm talking about, the sum of x, the sum of the data values. And once we find that sum, we're going to square that sum. So this, we're only going to apply the square once. And then we're going to divide by. So this part here is separated, really, from this part. So once we find the answer here, put it here. Once we find this answer, we put it here, divide by n. And then we find the difference. And then when we get the answer, we divide by n again. Okay, but only this part is divided by n. Just take a note of that. So we're going to square, and remember we're working with this part first. So what we're going to do, we're going to square the data values and then find their sum. Not the sum of the data values, mind you. So we have done that, 95. So the thing is, looking back at this, how do we find that, right? First thing you want to use your calculator and put 95 times 95, or 95. That x squared button, you should see that x squared button on your calculator. Just press it after pressing 95, and you should get 95 squared, and that should give you 9025. We do the same onwards until we get what we see earlier, which is this. Then we're going to add these scores. These are the square numbers, we're going to add them. And this is what this is telling us. This is the instruction here. Square the numbers as we have done, and then find their sum. The sum of those square number. And the sum that we got is 171,760. Right, just double checking that. Yes, so that's 171,760. So we have completed this portion. Now we're going to work out this part, which is to find the sum of the data values, which we got already. Remember, when calculating, we actually did that. So we can just take a look back at what what we have so far. So we have done this, which is this part. Let's look at the next part. Alright, so we're gonna do this portion now. Alright. So what we did here, find the sum of these data values according to this. Sum of x, or sum of the data values. Add these up. We're not squaring them, we're gonna add them up. And what we got for this is, as we said we did earlier, was 2248. In case you have an exam, you don't have to go and repeat this again because it was already calculated, this portion. Alright, we're not going to divide by 30 yet. So what we're going to do next, after finding the sum of x or the data values, we're going to square the data values. And this is what we have so far. In other words, we're squaring the instruction here, which is sum of x. And our answer to that is 5,053,504. And so that is for this portion. Okay, so the next step that we're going to look at, we're going to just identify the fact that we have, identify the values that will be replacing the sum of x squared and sum of x to be squared with. Alright, so as you can see, what we have here, the n is actually 30 number values in our data set, and we got these scores. These are explained already. So once we punch them in, alright, in the formula, we should have something looking like this. Alright? And the next step, what we're going to do next? What can you tell me? That's correct. We're going to work out this part first, the fraction first, before we take the answer for the fraction from this value here. And what would we get? Right, notice I've left up to 3 decimal places. That's just for the accuracy of the final answer. And then next, we'll have the difference, which is 3,309.8666. I've left that up to 4 decimal places. And then we're going to divide, find a quotient, which will give us 110.3289. That's 4 decimal places, just for accuracy in the final answer again, as I mentioned. And then we will get 10.5 as our standard deviation. Again, we can write a small sigma, or we could put SD, same thing, which is going to be 10.5, and that's our standard deviation. Please subscribe, like, and share, and this has been some wonderful terms and concepts in descriptive statistics. Just want to note or acknowledge the person. Yes, want to acknowledge the design of the question by Howard Forbes. Awesome.